So it seems that these days there is a war brewing online and we have to choose. Battle lines are being drawn and you need to make that decision, that all important decision. There's no in between, there's no both, there's no neither. No. Choose now. Andor or Ahsoka. Which is the better show? Did you choose? Which one did you choose?
Andor.
Ahsoka?
Andor.
You chose that? Are you kidding me? There's no way you can possibly think that one is better. No. You're just wrong. No, you're wrong. The other one is better.
So uncivilized.
If you know me, you know that I'm not like that at all. That's, of course, a joke, but it very much seems that there are some people online who just feel the need to compare these two and say that one of them is just so much better and that the other one sucks in comparison. And I'm just like, can we appreciate both? Because I think both are good. That is probably going to not sit well with certain people. I'm going to essentially do a breakdown in this video between the two shows. Even though I think it's actually kind of a difficult comparison, I'm still going to see what I can do about it. And at the end, I will say which one my preferred show is between the two. However, people may not like what I say, simply because I have a preference and they don't like that preference. This is how opinions work, people, but we'll get there. But to just give an example of what I've come across on social media, I'm a part of a couple of Star Wars Facebook groups, and there was one post like a couple of weeks ago that I saw, and I was like, okay, I need to just save this post and save these comments and just show them, because some of them are just so stupid, honestly. So the post itself is, I just can't get into this series. How is it that Andor was such a better series than this one? Spelling. I really wanted to like Ahsoka, or however you spell. Yeah, okay. Honestly, spelling is a thing. And this is funny because, you know, English is not officially my first language, but I know how to spell it, so do better. But anyway, we have this comment here from someone who is a top contributor, and it says Andor sucked. Yeah, that is a great contribution. Thank you very much. What the hell? Honestly, I'm just baffled by the fact that, you know, people can just spout this kind of bullshit. Like, no, you just need to say that, and people are actually liking it. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Comment right below it. Fell asleep during first episode. Need to try again. Which show, Andor or Ahsoka? It's not particularly clear now, is it? There are a couple of like decent comments that have a bit more substance to it, where they actually explain it a little bit better how it is. But I'm just going through the ones where I'm just like, how can you possibly think that your comment is contributing to this post? Now, to be fair, this is kind of a toxic group. That's exactly the reason why I went into it, because, you know, these toxic fans, they still exist, and I want to just point them out. Andor was boring. Ahsoka is way better by far. Again, great contribution. Thank you for your insight. Man, the cult of Ahsoka is strong. This show is nothing but fan service. Andor actually felt like Star Wars since most of the other junk released since Disney acquired. Again, I'm just like grammar, spelling, but whatever. But yeah, like there's a little bit more of an explanation as to why one is better than the other, but still, it's kind of okay, sure. Ahsoka is a million times better than Andor. Andor's only redeeming value is that it's a great cure for insomnia. Is that yet again a shot at the fact that Andor might be considered boring? You're not a real Star Wars fan, so this is the worst comment in the history of Star Wars fandom. People claiming that someone is not a real Star Wars fan. Like, everyone is a real Star Wars fan, with the exception of the people who hate on Star Wars all the time, or are gatekeepers like this saying like, oh, you're not a real Star Wars fan. You're the worst. But of course, this is the internet where we can say anything and everything that we would want, so that's why you see this kind of stuff. Most of the time, it is people sitting in front of their computer like this, though. Now, I will say, I am also sitting in front of my computer, but at least I'm putting myself out there, so I would consider it to be a little bit different. So instead of spouting bullshit like other people on the internet, I figured, make a video out of it, do somewhat of a comparison between the two, because I think both shows have some really good, awesome stuff. Honestly, both shows have stuff in them that I never thought I would see in a Star Wars thing. And therefore I feel there is somewhat of a comparison I can make, even though fundamentally the shows are quite different. Before I continue with the rest of the video, there will be very minor spoilers for both shows in here. I have extensive reviews on Ahsoka on my channel already. If you want to check that out, I am going to in the future also do the same thing for Andor. So I will get into that in other videos. Right here, I'm going to essentially compare the two and not really go into specific details. So let's just see what it is about these two shows that make them so different from one another, because there is quite a difference, in my opinion. When I see these two shows, I see very different aspects of Star Wars. So let's start with Andor. Andor is made by Tony Gilroy. He also was a screenwriter on Rogue One. The big difference, though, is that Rogue One had several screenwriters, and therefore I feel Rogue One was a little bit more traditional Star Wars, where Andor takes a bit of a step further away from the really true traditional Star Wars, and it does something different, because literally the opening scene of Andor has Andor going into a brothel. I never expected to see a Star Wars brothel of some kind. Like, that was pretty nuts, actually. But I appreciated it because it makes sense that we have some kind of a location like that in Star Wars, in the universe, because we have seen the underworld of Star Wars, and this is definitely more of an adult show, Andor. I definitely get a more adult feel. Like, it's very gritty. I also very much feel like the characters that we see are not necessarily like dark side and light side. They're just people doing a job, trying to go through life in the galaxy. We see a lot of political stuff. I very much feel like Andor is a political thriller of sorts. All the stuff going on with Mon Mothma and the Imperial Security Bureau, all of that, very political, but it's very interesting to me. I thought all of that, seeing all of that was really interesting, really awesome, because we haven't really explored that side of Star Wars, at least not on screen. And in the meantime, of course, we have Andor, who's a fugitive, and he's trying to figure himself out. He's trying to essentially start his rebellious era, which we know he will get to because we've seen Rogue One. But to see those beginnings, I think it's presented really well. And on the other side, with Ahsoka, this is made by Dave Filoni, who has been involved with Star Wars for well over 15 years at this point. He started working on Star Wars with the Clone Wars, then he continued with Rebels, went back to the Clone Wars, helped on The Mandalorian, also helped with Resistance. He has been involved with Star Wars for such a long time. He is a really humongous Star Wars fan. He really seems to understand the galaxy and understand what to do in terms of making Star Wars, because a lot of people love the Clone Wars, a lot of people love Rebels, and, well, it also seems that a lot of people are loving Ahsoka, myself included. And me being such a big fan of those animated shows, I could not believe that we saw all the things that we have seen for years in animation brought into live action. I thought that was really cool. But Ahsoka, to me, is very much traditional Star Wars. It's fantasy, it's Jedi versus dark side. It's not exactly Sith, but, dark side people. Rebellion, New Republic versus Empire. The traditional Star Wars roots. And to me, I thought it was really well done. Like, I think some of the stuff that we saw in Ahsoka is really awesome. And it is very much the side of Star Wars that I am very much on board with, because, as I said, it's the more traditional side, the fantasy side that I really love. One thing that I have noticed, though, is because of the fact that Andor is so different from traditional Star Wars, it very much seems that people who are like old school Star Wars fans, but they haven't really liked recent Star Wars, like the sequel trilogy, The Mandalorian, that kind of stuff, they do seem to like Andor. It's not to say that if you like Andor, you hate the rest of Star Wars. No, it's just that it very much just seems that the people who are way more skeptical and critical about it, they really love Andor. So I've essentially described like clear differences in the two shows, but how can we compare them to one another? Well, first of all, they're set in the Star Wars universe. One is set 5 years before A New Hope, the other 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So in between the two shows, there's about 14 years. Quite a different era in the galaxy, of course, and quite a lot of different problems to deal with at the time. But if we look at like characters and writing and like the way that the story progresses, I will say that I think Andor is way better written. I had massive issues with the pacing and just the overall flow of the season of Ahsoka. Even though I really love the show and I love a lot of the stuff that we saw, I felt it was rushed. I felt there was stuff that they didn't really focus on that they should have focused on if they had just a little bit more time, an episode or two more, or maybe longer episodes, or, a 12 episode season like Andor, because Andor feels like a complete season. It really has like a start, middle, and end. And by the end of it, like it is a bit of an open ending. We still have possibilities to go to for season two, which we know is coming. But I do feel like all the storylines in season one of Andor are very much wrapped up in a way that I'm satisfied with it. With Ahsoka, I'm not. With Ahsoka, I definitely felt that there were certain things that they set up and we didn't really get much of a resolution for. And I will say that, because of the fact that I had watched Andor before Ahsoka and then I see Ahsoka, I was wishing for more dialogue heavy scenes because Andor had such good writing in terms of the dialogue that I was like, why don't we see more of that in Ahsoka? Now, that's also because, Ahsoka is very much more focused on the entire fantasy element. And in terms of the action going on, there's a whole lot of action going on. But I did actually really like some of the more quiet scenes in Ahsoka where it's just two or three characters talking to one another about something. Because that kind of stuff, honestly, if you write that well, can also be very engaging. And that is why I feel some of the people are saying that Andor is boring because it has a lot of those talking scenes. But those talking scenes, I think, first of all, the dialogue is well written. And second of all, the way that it progresses through those talking scenes and it essentially slowly builds tension throughout episodes is really well done. And I think with Andor, the fact that they do these arcs where they have an episode where it starts the story, episode then progresses the story, and then the episode where we have the big payoff, the way that it flows is just really well done and it builds the tension really well. And with Ahsoka, we got that a little bit as well, but not as much. And I felt that there was more to be done. And especially the end of Ahsoka felt very rushed to me. Like, oh, and now this person is here, this person is here, this person is here. And then, okay, well, that was quick. So in that regard, I think the writing is definitely better for Andor. But on the other hand, what I really love about Ahsoka, first of all, of course, is seeing animated characters that I've known for years in live action. And I think most of them are translated very well. But also the entire fantasy element of it. The fantasy element of Ahsoka with what they can do with the Force and the places that they go, I think that is awesome to see. Seeing the world between worlds, for example, I was blown away by that. And I really, truly do think that Ahsoka is more creative in some way. But where Andor was very much more focused on a contained story surrounding Andor throughout the season, Ahsoka just goes very big with it. And maybe not all of it works, but a lot of it does, in my opinion. And the stuff that works really works. And I thought it was really creative and really awesome to see some of these things. Because as I said, I really think that Ahsoka has some things in there that I never thought I would see in live action. Same goes for Andor, like as I said, a brothel, and that's just one of the things. So I very much feel both of the shows still they give us a lot. It gives a lot of new things, a lot of exciting things, and I do think that it very much is going to come down to what you prefer. If you prefer the more fantasy side, you're going to lean towards Ahsoka. Especially like if you're a big fan of Rebels and the Clone Wars, knowing the characters from those animated shows, yeah, you're probably really going to like that. Andor, on the one hand, is better because it introduces completely new characters that we've never seen before and it makes us like them. With the exception of Andor. Andor, we know from Rogue One. But let's be fair, was your favorite character in Rogue One Cassian Andor? If you're saying yes, let me know in the comments why. I'm honestly curious because if you watch Rogue One just in and of itself, I think there are way better characters than Cassian Andor in that movie. So I would seriously wonder why you prefer Cassian. Now, based on the show Andor, I can definitely see why your favorite character would be Andor because way more backstory and they make him a lot more interesting and a better character, I feel. But based on Rogue One, maybe not so much. With Rebels, for example, we already know these characters. We know them very well. And that's where Ahsoka is like, oh, you know those characters. And for the people who have seen Rebels, they will know everything that's going on in Ahsoka. The people who haven't seen Rebels have no idea. That is why I think that the overall consensus for the show, Ahsoka, what you can see on IMDb, is lower than Andor. Andor has a higher rating on IMDb, and that's simply because Andor is very much like anyone can watch it. If you have never seen a single Star Wars thing in your life, Andor is the one to go to because Andor just completely sets everything up. With Ahsoka, they are going to assume you've seen the animated stuff. Now, I honestly don't know about people who haven't seen the animated stuff who would watch Ahsoka. I am yet to find out anything really about that. Because the thing just is, there are not a lot of people that I know that have not seen the animated stuff, but they are watching Ahsoka. At least not yet. I have one friend that I'm essentially pressuring, like, watch Ahsoka because you haven't seen the animated stuff and I want to see what you think. I don't know. Honestly, I'll have to wait and see. Maybe I'll share that in a future video. But the thing is that, both of these shows really gave us some amazing episodes. Like, Andor gave us the Eye, and everything on Aldani building up to the Eye was just, it was so cool. It was so awesome. And also then we had the One Way Out, the prison stuff going on. That was also fucking great, honestly. So I think that Andor really gave us a lot of great episodes, a lot of great writing, and it essentially enhances Cassian Andor as a character in Rogue One. So if you now rewatch Rogue One, there's more to be found in there, I feel. But on the other hand, what Ahsoka gave us, pretty much everyone really loved episode 5. Yeah, episode 5 of Ahsoka is really good, yeah. So honestly, the fact that Ahsoka did that kind of stuff is very different from what Andor did, but it's still awesome to see it. So in the end, I think, and it's very difficult to pick a winner. On the one hand, I think Andor is better written, and it is a really solid first season throughout the 12 episodes with the arcs building up through episodes, and then when it finishes, it goes on to the next and has really good flow. On the other hand, with Ahsoka, the fantasy type stuff and seeing the animated characters, that is my preferred one, actually. So between the two, my preference would go to Ahsoka. But I think that overall Andor is better. That is an answer that everyone is going to hate. I know this because everyone is just like, well, choose one of the two. I can't, okay? I think both have incredible elements, which makes it very difficult to pick. I love both for different reasons. So, like, my preference would be Ahsoka because it's more my style of Star Wars. But I think Andor is great I really love it. I'm actually doing my rewatch, my third rewatch of it right now. So it goes to show I really love both shows. And I would just like to see people be a little bit more constructive and normal in their criticisms online instead of just being like, Ahsoka sucks. Andor sucks. Guys, can we just be normal about this? Of course, we are yet to get a second season, probably for both of these shows. Andor is confirmed, we know that. I've actually seen a teaser at Celebration for that. So that is being made, and I'm pretty sure that Ahsoka will get one too. It's just that currently, with the strike going on in Hollywood, we don't know when we get any kind of announcement. We'll have to wait and see. But that's, I think, all I can say about this subject. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer Andor? Do you prefer Ahsoka? Do you like both? Do you like neither? Just let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Don't be a stupid idiot commenting bullshit like I showed you before. And just let's try to be civil about this, of course. If you've liked the video, please leave a like on it and subscribe to my channel for more Star Wars content. Please follow me on social media as well. And until my next video, may the Force be with you.